The text came in at 5:42 a.m. I was already awake. Army schedule doesn't really allow for sleeping in even on a Saturday. I had coffee in one hand, laptop open on the kitchen counter at my place near Fort Liberty, skimming through a logistics readiness report before PT. My phone buzzed. I glanced down. Thanks for paying for everything, Aunt Liv. It was awesome. It was from my nephew Mason. 17. Smart kid, always polite. I read it twice. Thanks for paying for everything. I knew exactly what he meant. The anniversary party. The one at the lakeside venue near Lake Norman. The one I wired $31,000 for. The one scheduled for October 14th. It was September 23rd. I checked the calendar on my phone like maybe I had miscounted days. Maybe the Army had secretly moved October forward and no one told me. Still September. I texted him back. Glad it went well. When did it happen? 3 dots. Then nothing. Then finally last night. I stood there in my kitchen, coffee getting cold, staring at the word like it might change. Last night meant it wasn't a misunderstanding about next month. It meant I was not invited. It meant they moved it. It meant nobody told me. I didn't call right away. I don't make decisions before 600. That rule has kept me out of trouble for 18 years. Instead, I opened my banking app. The wire confirmation was still there. $31,000. Venue deposit, catering, photographer, DJ. A milestone celebration, Chloe had called it. 10 years married. We've worked so hard, Liv. It would mean a lot if you could help. I helped. I had requested leave for mid-October. I had a refundable Southwest ticket booked. I had even ordered a dress that didn't look like I was about to brief a brigade commander. And the party happened 3 weeks early. PT. That morning felt longer than usual. I ran with my company and kept my face neutral. If you've ever served, you know that face. The one that says everything is fine even when it isn't. No one needs to know your family drama at 6:30. Back at my car, I called Chloe. She answered on the second ring, voice bright. Too bright. Hey, Liv. How was the party? There was a pause. Not long. Just long enough. It was good. I heard it was last night. Another pause. Longer this time. Yeah. The venue had an opening. We didn't want to lose it. And you didn't think to call me. It all happened fast. That's what people say when it didn't happen fast. I leaned back in the driver's seat and looked at the windshield. Soldiers were walking across the lot, rucks on their backs, starting their day like normal. My day had just shifted sideways. I already had leave approved, I said. You knew that. I know, it would have been complicated. Complicated? That word landed heavier than we forgot. What does that mean? It's just easier sometimes without all the military energy, you know. Big speeches. Formal vibes. I almost laughed. I've never given a speech at one of her events. I don't even like speaking at mandatory promotion ceremonies. Chloe. I said, keeping my tone even, I've paid for half your events for a decade. When have I ever made one about me? Silence again. Then she shifted. It wasn't just that. There it was. The real answer always takes a minute. I didn't want people thinking you paid for everything. I let that sit. You did pay for everything, she added quickly. I just didn't want it to look that way. That was the first honest sentence. She didn't want her friends, the real estate colleagues, the country club wives, knowing that her older sister in uniform had covered the venue. On Facebook, I'm my strong Army sister. In real life, I'm apparently a liability. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't say anything dramatic. Okay, I said. That's it, for now. We hung up. I drove home instead of heading straight to the office. I opened my laptop and pulled up an Excel file I hadn't looked at in a while. I named it Family Transfers years ago as a joke. It wasn't funny anymore. I scrolled. 2012. $41,000 down payment gap. 2014. $17,800 credit card consolidation. 2015. $22,000 IVF cycle. 2016. $14,500 wedding overage. 2017. $18,200 roof repair. 2018. $27,000. Kitchen remodel bridge. 2019. $11,600 private school deposit. 2020. $19,000 COVID income gap. 2021. $24,300 property tax and medical. 2022, $29,000 short-term liquidity. 2023, $31,000 anniversary party. There were smaller Zelle and Venmo transfers scattered between those numbers. $500 here, $2,000 there. Emergency car repair. Summer camp deposit. We're just a little tight this month. I highlighted the column and let Excel do the math. $252,400. 12 years. I stared at the number. It didn't make me angry. It made me tired. When our parents died, Chloe was 16. I was 23. I remember standing in a hospital hallway promising my mother I'd make sure Chloe was okay. I meant it. I still mean it. But okay and financed indefinitely are not the same thing. At some point, helping turned into expectation. I thought back to conversations over the years. You don't have kids, Liv. You make officer pay. It's temporary. You'll be fine. Maybe I would be fine. But that wasn't really the point. The point was that the party I paid for had happened without me. Not because of weather, not because of a deployment, not because of a last-minute emergency, because she didn't want it to look like she needed me. That afternoon, I didn't send the usual Sunday transfer I had set up for Mason's monthly college savings supplement. It wasn't a huge amount. $500. I always did it on the 1st and the 15th. I let the 15th pass. No message from Chloe asking if something was wrong. That was interesting. I went about my week. Logistics briefings, equipment tracking, a compliance review prep that had been hanging over us for months. Real work, the kind with consequences. Every so often I'd glance at my phone expecting a follow-up text. Something like, "Hey, about earlier." Nothing came. On Wednesday, a notification popped up from Chloe. "Hey, quick question." Of course, I didn't open it right away. I finished what I was doing first. I've learned that if you respond instantly, you train people to expect it. When I finally opened the message, it wasn't about the party. It was about money. Ryan's commission is delayed. We're short on the mortgage this month. Can you spot us $2,800 until October? There was no mention of the venue, no acknowledgement, just business as usual. That's when something shifted. It wasn't rage. It wasn't heartbreak. It was clarity. The party wasn't an isolated incident. It was a data point. She could move a $31,000 event without telling me. But she couldn't cover $2,800 without asking. I typed a response. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Then I set my phone down and went to the gym. For 12 years I had responded immediately. Every time. This time I didn't. I left her message on read and finished my workout before deciding what to do with it. The rhythm of lifting helped. Numbers make sense to me. Weight, reps, sets, you either move it or you don't. No emotional backstory attached. Money with Chloe had never been that clean. Driving home from the gym, I kept thinking about that hospital hallway 18 years ago. Not because I enjoy replaying trauma, but because that's where this whole thing started. My parents were driving back from state college when a truck crossed the median. My dad died at the scene. My mom held on long enough for us to get there. Chloe was 16. She still had braces. I was 23 and finishing my senior year in ROTC. I remember standing next to her hospital bed nodding at whatever the social worker was saying because someone had to be the adult in the room. My mom squeezed my hand and said, "Make sure she's okay." That sentence lodged in my brain like a permanent order. The insurance payout sounded big at first. About $185,000 total between the two policies. It disappeared fast. Funeral expenses, the remaining mortgage balance on the house, legal fees. We set aside money for Chloe's college tuition. By the time everything cleared, probate what was left wasn't life-changing. Chloe moved in with our aunt in Pittsburgh to finish high school. I commissioned and reported to my first duty station. We weren't in the same city, but I wired money when she needed it. Senior trip, prom dress, car insurance. It felt normal, responsible, like I was following instructions. In those early years, she didn't ask for much. Community college first. Then she transferred to a state school in North Carolina to be closer to a boyfriend. That boyfriend became Ryan. Ryan was ambitious, I'll give him that. Always had a new plan. Real estate courses, sales certifications. "We just need a little runway," he told me once over FaceTime. Runway turned out to be expensive. The first big transfer came in 2012. They were buying a house in Charlotte. The lender required a higher down payment than they expected. We're short. $41,000, Chloe said. If we don't close, we lose the house. I had just made captain. Deployment pay from Afghanistan was still sitting in my account. I wired the money. She cried on the phone. Told me I was the reason her kids would grow up stable someday. That felt good. 2 years later, credit card balances stacked up. Just bad timing, she explained. I sent $17,800 to wipe it clean. IVF came next. Insurance didn't cover most of it. $22,000. That one hurt not because of the money, but because it didn't work. I told myself this was different. This was medical. This was family. Then the wedding overage. I had already helped with the venue deposit. Somehow there was still a $14,500 gap. It's just numbers on paper, Liv, she said. You're good with numbers. I am. That's part of the problem. Every time something came up, there was a reason. Roof damage. School tuition gap. Property tax miscalculation. A remodel that went over budget because buyers in this market expect upgraded kitchens. At some point, the requests stopped sounding urgent and started sounding routine. Can you cover this until next quarter? We'll pay you back when commissions hit. Just this once. I kept telling myself it wasn't enabling. It was stability. Our parents weren't there to help. I was. There was another sentence Chloe liked to use. You don't have kids, Liv. What else are you spending it on? It was meant as a joke. It landed like an assumption. I didn't mind not having kids. The Army has a way of filling your calendar. Deployments, field exercises, inspections. My life was structured, predictable in its unpredictability. Chloe's life looked different. 2 kids, HOA fees, dance lessons, travel soccer, a leased SUV that seemed to upgrade every 3 years. I noticed the lifestyle creep, but I explained it away. Dual income household. Real estate was good in Charlotte. Ryan's commissions were strong during those hot market years. Maybe they were just temporarily overextended, temporarily stretched into a decade. One thing I didn't do was set terms. No promissory notes, no repayment schedule, no written agreement. Not because I couldn't draft one, because I didn't want to feel like a creditor. I wanted to feel like a sister who kept her promise. When Chloe posted photos online, the narrative was clean. Smiling family. Backyard barbecues. Grateful for my support system. Sometimes she'd tag me. Sometimes she wouldn't. Behind-the-scenes transfers kept happening. I never once saw a repayment hit my account. Not once. There were occasional gestures. A birthday gift. A Christmas sweater mailed to me at Fort Bragg. But nothing that looked like balancing the books. I didn't track it obsessively at first. The spreadsheet started as a way to organize my taxes. Large transfers trigger reporting thresholds. I like documentation. The Army teaches you that. Over time, it became something else, a record. By 2020, when COVID hit and Ryan's hours were cut, the $19,000 I sent felt almost automatic. Of course I would help. The world was unstable. Family steps in. But by 2022, when she messaged about a temporary liquidity issue and I wired $29,000, without even asking for details, I realized I had stopped requesting explanations. That shift mattered. When you stop asking questions, people stop offering answers. And then came the anniversary party. $31,000 for one night. At the time, I told myself it was symbolic. 10 years married. Survived IVF. Survived a pandemic. It felt like a milestone. Now it felt like an invoice. I pulled back into my driveway that evening and finally opened Chloe's message about the $2,800. The wording was casual. No mention of the party. No acknowledgement that she'd moved the date and left me out. Just a shortfall, just another number. I typed slowly. Not this month. I stared at the sentence for a full minute before hitting send. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't final. It was just different. For the first time in 12 years, I didn't fix the gap. Her reply came through before I even put my phone down. Are you serious? No emoji. No softening. Just that. I didn't answer right away. I set the phone face down on the kitchen counter and went to shower. Steam quiet routine. I've learned that urgency in other people doesn't automatically require urgency from me. By the time I came back, there were 3 more messages. We're already behind. It's just until Ryan's commission clears. You've never had a problem before. That last one stuck. You've never had a problem before. She was right. I hadn't. Not publicly. What she didn't see was that over the past year, I'd started noticing patterns. Not dramatic red flags. Just small, consistent shifts. Her requests no longer sounded embarrassed. They sounded logistical. Can you cover this? We're short again. Can you just transfer it? No explanation. No breakdown. No sense that this was extraordinary. I opened the spreadsheet again that night and added the $2,800 request into a new column labeled pending. Not because I planned to pay it, because I wanted to see it in context. There's something about seeing numbers stacked in rows that strips away emotion. 2012. House down payment gap. 2014. Credit consolidation. 2015. IVF. 2016. Wedding overage. 2017. Roof repair. 2018. Remodel bridge. 2019. School deposit. 2020. COVID gap. 2021. Property tax and deductible. 2022. Liquidity issue. 2023. Anniversary party. And now 2024. Mortgage shortfall. Each one had a story attached at the time. Each one felt unique. Together they formed a system. I zoomed out and looked at the bigger picture. Chloe and Ryan's combined income wasn't low. Between real estate and HV, AC sales, they averaged somewhere around $165,000 a year in strong markets. Some years higher, some years lower. They weren't poor. They were stretched. Private school tuition, travel soccer tournaments in 3 states, a leased SUV that cost more per month than my first apartment after commissioning, kitchen remodels that weren't strictly necessary but made resale value competitive. Every lifestyle decision assumed there was a cushion. That cushion had my name on it. When we were kids, Chloe hated math. I loved it. I'd sit at the kitchen table doing algebra while she flipped through magazines. You actually like that, she used to ask. I did. Numbers tell the truth if you let them. The truth was this: in 12 years, not one transfer had been repaid in full. A few partial attempts early on, maybe 1,000 here, 2,000 there. Nothing sustained. Nothing systematic. I'd never enforced it. So it faded. I thought back to something she said a few years ago when I hesitated about a transfer. You're in the Army. You have benefits. You'll retire with a pension. We're building something here. At the time, it sounded like optimism. Now it sounded like justification. That evening she called instead of texting. You're really not going to send it, she asked. Not this month. That doesn't make sense. You literally just paid for the party. Exactly. I paid for the party because you asked me to. You moved the date without telling me. We've already talked about that. No, we hadn't. We'd brushed past it. It wasn't personal, she said. It was just easier. Easier for who? You act like we're using you, she added. I didn't respond immediately. I'm looking at 12 years of transfers, I said finally. Help me understand how this ends. What do you mean? At what point are you stable without me? Silence. You're my sister, she said instead. This is what family does. I've heard that line in different forms my entire adult life. Family helps. Family steps in. Family doesn't keep score. But someone always pays. I leaned back in my chair and looked at the framed certificate on the wall from my last deployment. 18 years of service. 2 combat tours. Dozens of training rotations. I built my life on structure and contingency planning. In the Army, if your unit relies on outside support indefinitely, it's not support anymore. It's a vulnerability. That word landed heavier than I expected. Vulnerability. Not financially. I could afford the $2,800. I could afford the $43,000 that I suspected was coming next. The issue wasn't capacity. It was precedent. You've never said no before, she said. That's true. So why now? Because the party happened without me. Because I'm tired. Because I'm not your line of credit. But I didn't list those. Because I don't see a plan, I said. There is a plan. What is it? Another pause. Ryan's next quarter will be strong. That wasn't a plan. That was hope. I didn't attack. I didn't lecture. I'm not transferring money this month, I repeated. She exhaled sharply. So that's it. After everything. After everything. The phrase sounded different depending on who said it. After everything I've given, after everything you've received. We ended the call without resolution. No shouting. Just a cold edge that hadn't been there before. Over the next few days, I noticed something else. No follow-up about this party. No apology. No acknowledgement that I had been excluded from an event I funded. Only logistics. A forwarded screenshot of a bank notice about the mortgage due date. A brief message about trying to juggle accounts. It wasn't malicious. It was mechanical. I drove onto base Thursday morning and realized I felt lighter. Not happier. Not triumphant. Just less obligated. For the first time since our parents died, I considered the possibility that keeping Chloe okay didn't mean insulating her from every consequence. I pulled into my parking spot and turned off the engine. The dashboard clock read 0726. My phone buzzed again. "Call me tonight," she wrote. "We need to talk about the mortgage." There it was. The number I'd been expecting wasn't $2,800. It was bigger. I let the phone sit on the passenger seat for the rest of the drive and didn't respond until that evening. By the time I got home, reheated leftovers, and changed out of uniform, the sun had already dropped behind the pines. I called her back. She picked up immediately. "Okay," she said, skipping hello. "Here's the situation." That's how people start when they want you focused on numbers instead of behavior. "Our mortgage adjusted last month. It's an ARM. The rate jumped from 3.2 to 6.9. The payment went up about $1,350. She paused like that number should explain everything. And we were already tight after the party. Then Ryan's commission got pushed to next quarter. We're behind 2 payments. There it was. Not $2,800. Something much bigger. How far behind? About $43,000 total. To bring it current and cover closing costs to refinance. $43,000. She said it quickly, like ripping off a Band-Aid. "If we can't get that together, the bank starts formal delinquency," she added. "We've got some time, but not much." I leaned back on the couch and stared at the ceiling fans spinning overhead. "You had $31,000 for a party," I said. "That was already paid. By me." "You moved the party 3 weeks early," I continued. "You didn't tell me. And now you're asking for $43,000. It's not like that." "How was it then?" She exhaled sharply. "I didn't want the party to turn into a whole thing about you paying. My friends don't need to know that. They already know you threw a party you couldn't afford." "That's not fair." I almost laughed. Fairness wasn't the issue. "You told me it would be October 14th, I said. I had leave approved. I had a flight, I bought a dress. You changed it and didn't call. It happened fast. The venue called you. Not me." Silence. "The truth didn't need much decoration. I didn't want it complicated," she said again. "Complicated how? You show up in uniform, everyone thanks you, it turns into a military appreciation moment. That's not what I wanted. I've never worn a uniform to one of her events unless she specifically asked. And I've never given a speech at any of them. You think I would have made it about me? It just shifts the energy." Energy. That was new. And the real reason I asked. She didn't answer right away. "I didn't want people thinking we rely on you," she said finally. "But you do." That landed harder than I intended. "That's not what I meant," she snapped. "We're building something. We just hit rough patches. For 12 years. You posted photos calling me your strong army sister," I said. "But you couldn't have me at the table." "That's dramatic." "No, it's accurate." The line went quiet except for background noise, probably the TV in the other room. The same house I helped them buy. The same living room I'd sat in during Christmases and birthdays. "Are you going to help us or not?" she asked. There it was. Clean. Direct. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I should have handled that better." Just logistics. "Did you know about the rate reset before the party?" I asked. "Yes." "How long?" "A few months. So you knew your payment was going up. You threw a $31,000 event anyway. We'd already committed. You commit to a DJ. You don't commit to default. You could have scaled it back," I said. "Backyard. Smaller venue. Less catering. It was our 10-year anniversary, and apparently optics mattered more than math." "You're acting like we're reckless," she said. "I'm looking at data." She let out a frustrated laugh. "You and your spreadsheets. Spreadsheets don't lie. When was the last time you paid me back for anything I asked? That's not how we do things." "Exactly." "I've transferred $252,400 over 12 years, I said. "That's not a rough patch. That's a pattern." She went quiet at that number. "You're keeping track?" she asked. "Yes." "That's cold." No, it's organized. Cold is moving a party so your sister doesn't show up, I replied. She didn't argue that. We thought you'd understand, she said instead. Understand what? That I was good enough to fund it, but not good enough to attend. I'm not sending $43,000, I said. The words felt steady, not emotional, just factual. You're really going to let us risk the house? I chose my next words carefully. I'm not letting anything happen. You and Ryan signed that mortgage. That's cruel. No, it's adult. You've always helped, she said. Yes. So why stop now? Because the party showed me the hierarchy. Money first, sister second. I kept my promise to Mom and Dad, I said. You're educated. You're married. You have 2 incomes. I'm not your contingency fund anymore. She started to say something, then stopped. So that's it, she asked. For the mortgage, yes. You're punishing us. I'm stepping back. There's a difference. The call ended without resolution. No screaming, no dramatic goodbye. Just a tension that hadn't existed before. Later that night, I scrolled through social media. Photos from the anniversary party were still up. String lights over the lake. Catering trays. Chloe in a navy dress. Ryan in a gray suit. The kids smiling. In one photo, there was a seat at the head table that could have been mine. I closed the app and set my phone down. The next morning, I transferred nothing. At 10:17 a.m., a new message popped up. Aunt called. She thinks you're overreacting. Of course she did. Family always has opinions when money shifts. I read the message once, locked my screen, and went back to work. I locked my phone and slid it into my desk drawer before the next briefing started. If there's one thing the Army trains you to do well, it's compartmentalize. Family drama doesn't get to walk into a logistics review and take a seat at the table. That morning, we were running through a compliance checklist ahead of a division-level inspection. Equipment accountability. Supply chain gaps. Forecasting shortages 3 months out. It's all about planning for what might break before it breaks. I kept thinking how strange it was that I'd never applied that mindset at home. For 12 years, I reacted. I didn't forecast. By lunchtime, I had 3 missed calls from Chloe and 1 text from my aunt in Pittsburgh. Your sister is stressed. Don't make this harder. That phrase again. Don't make this harder. No one ever said that when I was wiring money at midnight from a deployment zone. No one ever worried about whether it was hard for me. I didn't respond. That was new. Usually I would have sent something reassuring. We'll figure it out. Tell her I love her. Something that softened the edge. Instead, I went back to work. The first week passed quietly. No transfers, no emergency wires, no last-minute Venmo requests. Chloe sent 2 more messages about the mortgage. 1 screenshot of a bank notice. 1 line that read, "We just need help stabilizing." I didn't answer. Not out of spite, out of clarity. I wanted to see what happened if I didn't step in immediately. On day 9, she called again. I let it ring. She left a voicemail. I don't understand why you're doing this. We're family. That word used to close every argument. Family. I replayed the voicemail once and deleted it. On day 14, Mason texted me about his college applications. We talked about deadlines and essay prompts. No mention of the mortgage. No mention of tension. The kids weren't part of this equation, and I intended to keep it that way. At the end of the second week, I logged into my bank account and noticed something I hadn't expected. My balance was higher than usual. Not dramatically, just stable. There were no outgoing spikes. No $3,000 here, $5,000 there. No just until Friday. For the first time in years, I wasn't anticipating the next request. I slept better. That surprised me. I hadn't realized how much low-level anxiety I carried around waiting for the next financial emergency. By week 3, the family commentary picked up. My aunt called. She's scared, Liv. So was I at 23, I replied. And no one wired me $43,000. That's different. Why? She lost her parents, too. So did I. We sat in that silence for a moment. You've always been the strong one, my aunt added. That's the thing about being labeled strong. It often means you're expected to absorb more. I've been the available one, I said. That's not the same. She didn't argue. Chloe sent another text that week. Ryan picked up extra service calls. We're trying. Good. That's what adults do. I didn't respond with praise. I didn't respond at all. The distance was uncomfortable at first. My instinct was to repair it. To smooth it over with a partial transfer. Maybe not the full $43,000, but something symbolic. $10,000. 5. A gesture. That urge passed after a few days. Gestures are how this started. In the 4th week, I got an email from Human Resources confirming my file had moved forward for the Lieutenant Colonel board. No guarantees, just notification that I was officially in the zone. I stared at the screen for a while. 18 years of service, 2 deployments, countless field exercises, long nights, early mornings. Everything in my career had structure, metrics, accountability. My family life had been running on emotion and assumption. That afternoon, Chloe finally called without preamble. "Are you done with me?" she asked. "No, because this feels like you're done. I'm done wiring money." "That's the same thing." It wasn't. "You think this is about the party," she continued. "It's not. It's about you feeling left out. It's about patterns." She went quiet. "You've always had control," she said. "You're the one with the stable job, the benefits, the pension." Control. That word was interesting. "I don't control your spending," I replied. "I just filled the gaps." "You're acting like we're irresponsible." I didn't answer that directly. "I want you stable without me," I said. "We are stable. You're 2 payments behind." Silence again. That was the closest we'd come to honesty. "I can't believe you're choosing money over family," she said. I almost smiled. "If this were about money, I'd send it," I said. "It's about something else." "What?" "Responsibility." She hung up. Not dramatically, just a quiet disconnect. I didn't call back. 30 days after that first $2,800 request, no money had left my account. The house was still standing. The bank hadn't shown up with locks. Chloe and Ryan were still employed. They were adjusting. That realization settled something inside me. Maybe my absence wasn't catastrophic. Maybe it was overdue. The email from the bank showed up in my inbox before Chloe sent it to me. Not because I had access to her account, but because she forwarded it with one line above the attachment. "Please read this." I opened it during my lunch break, sitting in my truck outside headquarters. The subject line read, "Notice of delinquency. 2 missed payments. 30 days to cure before further action." The amount due was real. Late fees included. The tone was professional, not dramatic. No one was showing up with chains and padlocks tomorrow. But it was no longer theoretical. A few minutes later, she called. "We're running out of time," she said. No greeting. "How much exactly?" $43,000 to bring it current and cover refinance costs. Maybe a little less if we cut closing expenses. Maybe doesn't belong in financial planning. "I talked to the lender," she continued. "If we can lower the principal, we can refinance into a fixed rate. It'll stabilize everything." Stabilize. That word again. "How did we get here?" I asked. "What do you mean?" "You knew about the ARM reset months ago. We thought commissions would cover it." Hope isn't math. You threw a $31,000 anniversary party. That was already paid. By me. And you moved the date so I wouldn't be there. That's not why. It's exactly why. She didn't deny it this time. "I didn't want people whispering that my big army sister bankrolls our life," she said. "It's embarrassing." There it was again. Not anger, not denial, just image management. "You were embarrassed of the money," I said, "but not embarrassed to ask for it." "That's not fair." "What part isn't fair?" She hesitated. "It makes us look like we can't handle our own life." I looked out the windshield at soldiers walking back from chow laughing about something small and stupid. No one there was pretending they didn't need help sometimes. The difference was, in the Army, help comes with accountability. "I've transferred $252,400 over 12 years, I said. "That's not a one-time assist." "You're keeping score again." "Yes. You act like I stole it." I let that hang. Did she steal it? No. I sent it willingly. But willingly doesn't erase imbalance. "I sent it because you asked," I said, "every time. And I asked because you said you'd always be there." I had. After our parents died, I promised she'd be okay. Somewhere along the way, okay expanded into never uncomfortable. "You're not 16 anymore," I said. "You're 32. You have 2 incomes. We're trying." "I know. Then help us." It would have been easy. I had the money. Deployment savings. Conservative investments. No car payment. No daycare bills. 43,000 would sting, but it wouldn't break me. That wasn't the question. The question was whether I was going to reset the clock again. If I send it, I asked, "What changes?" "What do you mean?" "Next year. The year after. When something else comes up." "What's different?" She didn't answer immediately. "We'll be more careful." That wasn't a plan. That was a wish. "Show me the budget," I said. "What?" "Send me your monthly expenses. Mortgage, car payments, tuition, utilities, credit cards. Show me where this goes." That's invasive. Is it? You don't trust me. Trust isn't blind. It's informed. I need to see numbers, I said, not feelings. She let out a long breath. You sound like you're briefing a colonel. Maybe that's because I am tomorrow. Silence on the line. You've changed, she said. No, I've been the same. I just stopped reacting. She shifted tactics. If we lose the house, that's on you. That one was clean. Sharp. Designed to land. No, I said. It's on the mortgage you signed. You can afford this. I can. And you won't. I won't. The words felt steady, not angry, not triumphant, just decided. You're really okay watching us struggle, she asked. I'm not watching anything. I'm stepping back. You're punishing us for a party. This wasn't about one night by the lake. It was about 12 years of small decisions that added up to one expectation. If the party hadn't happened, I said we'd still be having this conversation. She didn't respond to that. In the background, I could hear one of the kids asking for something. Life moving on as usual. I don't know how we're going to fix this, she said quietly. That was the first honest sentence of the call. You'll figure it out, I replied. That's easy for you to say. It wasn't easy at 23. She knew what I meant. The funeral, the paperwork, the first duty station with a storage unit full of boxes I couldn't deal with yet. I thought you understood what it's like to be scared, she said. I do. Then why won't you help? Because fear doesn't go away when someone keeps absorbing the consequences for you. I've helped for 12 years, I said. This is different. How? I'm not sending the money. There it was. Clean. Final. She didn't cry, she didn't yell. She just went quiet. After a few seconds, she spoke again, voice flat. So we're on our own. Yes. The line stayed open another moment, neither of us saying anything. Then she hung up. I sat in my truck with the phone still in my hand, heart rate steady. No adrenaline spike, no second thoughts. $43,000 stayed exactly where it was. For the first time since our parents died, I didn't step in to close the gap. I set the phone down on the center console and sat there a few minutes longer than I needed to. Not because I was reconsidering, because silence after a hard decision feels strange when you're used to filling it with action. By the time I walked back into headquarters, the world hadn't shifted. Soldiers were still arguing about supply counts. Someone had misplaced a hand receipt. A lieutenant was asking me a question about vehicle maintenance cycles like nothing else existed. And that's the thing about personal crises. They feel enormous inside your own head. Outside of it, life keeps moving. That night, Chloe didn't text. The next morning, my aunt did. She says you refused to help. I did. She's terrified. So was I at 23, I said. Nobody wired me $43,000. That's different. She repeated the same way she had weeks earlier. Different how? You've always been the responsible one. Responsible has a cost. It just doesn't always show up on a bill. 2 days later, Chloe called again. This time her tone was less sharp. We talked to the lender, she said. There's a hardship modification option. Good. It would mean rolling late payments into the principal and taking a higher fixed rate. That's still better than default. You really aren't going to help. It wasn't a question. No. She exhaled slowly. We might have to sell the SUV. There it was. The first real consequence. That's an option, I said. That's humiliating. More humiliating than foreclosure. She didn't answer. Over the next week, bits of information filtered in through family channels, not directly from her. They listed the SUV online. They canceled the Disney trip planned for spring break. The kids were transferring from private school to public at the end of the semester. Every adjustment sounded dramatic when passed through relatives. She's devastated. She feels abandoned. You're breaking her trust. No one said, maybe she should have planned differently. That part remained implied but unspoken. At work, my focus sharpened instead of slipping. The logistics inspection came and went without major findings. The brigade commander pulled me aside afterward. Strong preparation, he said. You're setting the standard. I thanked him and moved on to the next task. Praise in the Army is brief, and usually followed by more work. That night I looked at my bank balance again. $43,000 still there. The account steady. No sudden dips. No last-minute wires. It felt strange not to feel relief, just stability. Chloe finally texted me directly. We're refinancing at 7.4%. It's awful. That's the market, I replied. We wouldn't be here if you'd helped. That wasn't accurate, and she knew it. You were already here, I wrote. The rate reset happened before I said no. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Reappeared. You've changed, she wrote. I set the phone down and let that sit. Had I changed? Or had I just stopped responding automatically? A few days later, Ryan called me for the first time in months. "I don't want this to get weird," he started. It already was. "We're picking up extra work," he continued. I took on additional service calls. Nights and weekends. "That's good," I said. "We'll be fine." That word again. Fine. Not thriving, not comfortable, just fine. "I know you've done a lot," he added. I should have said that earlier. It wasn't dramatic, just straightforward. "Take care of your family," I told him. "That's what I'm trying to do." After the call, I sat on my back porch and watched the sun drop behind the trees. North Carolina evenings are humid this time of year. The air thick, heavy, real. I thought about our parents, about the hallway in that hospital, about the promise. Make sure she's okay. Was she okay? She still had a house, a job, a husband, 2 healthy kids, a refinanced mortgage at a painful but survivable rate. Okay doesn't mean untouched by consequence. A week later, my phone buzzed during a staff meeting. I ignored it until we broke for lunch. It was an email from Human Resources. Official notification. You have been selected for promotion to Lieutenant Colonel. I read it twice to be sure. 18 years. Every PCS, every field problem, every deployment. It all added up to that one line. I didn't call Chloe. I didn't post about it online. I closed the email, finished my sandwich, and went back into the conference room. That evening I told her in a short text, "Selected for LTC." Her reply came a few minutes later. "Congrats." No exclamation point, no long message, just that. I didn't need more. Over the next month, her messages shifted tone. Less urgency, more updates. Refinance closed. Sold the SUV. Kids are adjusting to the new school. Each line shorter than the last. There was no apology about the party. No revisiting the anniversary. No grand reconciliation. Just life recalibrating. Family gatherings felt different after that. Not explosive, just cooler. A slight distance where automatic closeness used to sit. At Thanksgiving, we sat across the table from each other. She talked about work. I talked about the upcoming change of rank. The kids passed roles back and forth like nothing had shifted. And in a way, nothing had. She was still my sister. I was still hers. The only thing missing was the expectation that I would fill every gap. I adjusted the new rank on my chest in the mirror before heading out the door. The promotion ceremony was small. No ballroom, no rented venue by a lake, just a conference room on base with folding chairs, a flag in the corner, and a few people who'd actually watched the work happen. Lieutenant Colonel Olivia Grant. It sounded official in a way that still felt slightly unreal. Chloe didn't come. I hadn't expected her to. The drive from Charlotte wasn't impossible, but the distance between us was more than miles. She sent a short text that morning. "Proud of you," I replied. "Thank you." That was enough. The ceremony lasted 20 minutes. My brigade commander said a few words about consistency, reliability, steady leadership, the kinds of traits that don't make headlines but keep systems from collapsing. Afterward, a captain asked how I planned to celebrate. "I might order takeout," I told him. He laughed, thinking I was joking. I wasn't. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with a paper plate of barbecue and thought about how different this milestone felt compared to the anniversary party I paid for. No lights strung over water. No catered buffet. No photographer documenting the angle of the sunset. Just work acknowledged, and no one moved the date on me. A week later, Chloe called. Not about money. "Refinance closed," she said. "Rate's high, but it's fixed." That's good. We're going to be tight for a while. That's normal. I sold the SUV. I pictured the shiny vehicle she'd upgraded to just 2 years earlier. Leather seats. Third row space they didn't really need. "We bought a used Highlander," she added. "Nothing fancy. Practical," I said. There was a small pause. "It's weird," she admitted. Budgeting like this. Budgeting like this. As if it were a foreign language. "You'll get used to it." She didn't argue. "We cut the Disney trip," she said. Kids weren't thrilled. "They'll survive." She let out a short breath that might have been a laugh. "You sound so calm about all of this." "I am." That surprised her. "I thought you'd be, I don't know, more intense." "I was intense for 12 years, I said. Just in a different direction." She didn't respond to that directly. "Mom thinks you're still mad," she said. "I'm not mad." That was true. Anger is loud. This wasn't loud. It was steady. "Then what are you? Done funding you?" She was quiet for a few seconds. "That sounds harsh." "It's accurate." There was no yelling, no crying, Just two adults, acknowledging a new boundary. You really tracked all of it, she asked suddenly. Yes, every dollar, yes. Why? Because I needed to see it. She didn't push back this time. I guess I never thought of it as that much, she said. That's how patterns work. Over the next few months, our conversations stayed practical. She mentioned picking up more listings. Ryan talked about expanding his service area. They canceled a gym membership and renegotiated their cable plan. Small adjustments that combined created space. The kids adjusted to public school faster than anyone expected. Mason joined the track team. Lila made new friends. None of it required my bank account. At Thanksgiving, the atmosphere was different but not explosive. We passed dishes, talked about work, compared notes on interest rates like normal adults. At one point, Chloe leaned toward me quietly. I didn't realize how much we were leaning on you, she said. That was the closest thing to an apology I was going to get. I didn't realize how much I was letting you, I replied. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't a hug either. It was something in between. Later that evening, Mason sat next to me on the couch while the adults cleaned up. Mom says you're really busy, he said. I am. Are you mad at her? No. He nodded like that made sense. Thanks for helping with college before, he added. You earned that, I told him. That part was still true. I hadn't stopped contributing to the kids' 529 plans. I'd just stopped patching their parents' spending gaps. On the drive back to Fort Liberty the next day, I thought about the word revenge. It didn't feel like revenge. I hadn't exposed her publicly. I hadn't demanded repayment. I hadn't cut her out of my life. I'd just stepped out of the role I'd been playing. For 12 years, I'd been the emergency exit, the financial parachute, the quiet fix. When I stopped, nothing catastrophic happened. No foreclosure notice taped to the door. No moving trucks at midnight. No children sleeping in cars. There were tighter budgets, harder conversations, lifestyle changes, normal consequences. The strangest part was how ordinary everything looked from the outside. Chloe still posted family photos, still tagged me occasionally, still called me her strong army sister. The difference was invisible to most people. It showed up only in my bank statements and in the quiet space where obligation used to sit. One evening, a few months after the refinance, Chloe sent me a screenshot. Their mortgage balance had dropped slightly. Extra principal payment. We're trying something new, she wrote. Paying down instead of up. Instead of up. I stared at the message for a moment before responding. Good. That was all. The lesson wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It was simple. I kept my promise to make sure she was okay. I just stopped confusing okay with untouched. I poured myself coffee one Sunday morning and opened the same spreadsheet I hadn't touched in weeks. Not to add anything, just to look at it one more time. $252,400. Seeing the number now didn't sting the way it had before. It felt historical, like a completed project, a closed file. My phone buzzed while I was still at the kitchen counter. Can we talk? Chloe texted. I called her instead of responding in writing. She picked up quickly. I've been thinking, she said. No preamble this time. No financial crisis. No urgency. That's new, I replied. She actually laughed. Okay, fair. There was a short pause. I didn't realize how automatic it had become, she continued. Calling you. I know. We built our budget assuming you'd cover whatever didn't fit. That was the first time she'd phrased it that way. Assuming. You never pushed back, she added. That's on me. It was. I could blame her for asking. But I was the one who kept answering. I think I resented you, she admitted. For what? For being stable. That one caught me off guard. I didn't resent the money, she clarified. I resented that you didn't seem stressed. You always had control. Control. I thought about deployments, 18-hour days moving every few years. Control is relative. You know what I saw? She continued. I saw someone who didn't have kids, didn't have a house full of chaos, and had a steady paycheck. It felt unfair. Unfair. Life isn't symmetrical, I said. I know that now. There was no defensiveness in her voice. Just something closer to self-awareness. I thought you liked being the one who saved the day, she added. For a moment, I didn't answer. She wasn't entirely wrong. Being needed feels good. It gives you a role, a purpose beyond your own routine. I did, I said finally. That was the part I hadn't said out loud before. After our parents died, I built my identity around being dependable, the responsible one, the fixer. It fit neatly with the army. But somewhere along the line, I stopped distinguishing between helping and enabling. I think I got used to it, she said. Not worrying because you'd handle it. I got used to it too, I admitted. That surprised her. You did? Yes. It felt like I was keeping my promise. She was quiet for a second. You kept it, she said. That landed differently than anything else she'd said all year. We didn't apologize in big dramatic speeches. We didn't revisit every transaction. We didn't calculate interest. We just acknowledged what had been happening. I'm not asking for money, she said after a moment. I know. I just didn't want this to feel like we're strangers now. We're not. We're different. Yes, different wasn't bad. It was just unfamiliar. I've been working with a financial planner, she added. We set up a real budget. That's good. We cut a lot. I can tell. She laughed again. It's humbling. Humility builds stability, I said. Is that from one of your army manuals? Probably. We stayed on the phone longer than we had in months. Not about money. About normal things. The kids. Work. A neighbor who kept parking in front of her mailbox. The mortgage wasn't magically easy. The rate was still high. The payment still tight. But they were covering it. On my end, the quiet in my bank account had turned into something else. Space. I started redirecting what would have been emergency transfers into my TSP and a small investment account. Nothing flashy, just disciplined. 18 years in the Army teaches you to think long-term. For the first time in a long time, I was thinking long-term for myself. A few weeks later, Mason called. Not a text, an actual call. Hey, Aunt Liv. Hey, Mom said you got promoted for real. For real. That's awesome. Thanks. He hesitated for a second. I know stuff's been weird, he said carefully. But I just wanted you to know I'm proud of you. That hit harder than the ceremony. I'm proud of you too, I told him. For what he asked. For figuring things out. He laughed. Mom says we're all on a budget now. That's not a bad thing. Yeah, it's actually kind of cool. Dad's teaching me how mortgages work. Good. That's how it's supposed to happen. After we hung up, I realized something simple. The kids hadn't lost anything important. They still had parents, a house, food, stability. They just didn't have an invisible bailout line anymore. And neither did Chloe. That evening, I closed the spreadsheet for the last time and archived the file. Not deleted. Archived. There's a difference. It wasn't about forgetting the $252,400. It was about not needing to reference it anymore. I kept my promise. I just stopped confusing protection with prevention. And for the first time in a long time, the responsibility I carried felt appropriately sized. I archived the spreadsheet and shut my laptop without feeling the need to double-check the total. For years, that number had defined something between us. Now it felt like context instead of weight. Life didn't dramatically improve after that conversation with Chloe. It didn't implode either. It recalibrated. 3 months into their refinance, she sent me a screenshot of their monthly budget. Not because I asked, because she wanted to show me. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance, car payment lower now, school expenses public not private, a modest line for savings. We're actually saving $300 a month, she wrote. It's not much, but it's ours. That word stood out. Ours. For the first time, there was no invisible line item labeled Liv. I replied with one word. Good. At work, the new rank settled in quickly. There's no magical shift when you go from major to lieutenant colonel. The emails don't get shorter. The responsibilities don't get lighter. The expectations just rise quietly. I found myself thinking about leadership differently. In the Army. If a unit keeps relying on external rescue instead of building internal capacity, it never matures. The mission might get done in the short term, but the structure stays weak. That wasn't just a military principle. It applied to family. Chloe called one evening while I was cleaning the kitchen. Can I tell you something without you turning it into a lesson, she asked. I'll try. We almost didn't refinance. That made me pause. What do you mean? We almost just asked you again. I leaned against the counter, and Ryan said no. That surprised me more than anything else she'd told me. He said if we ask you again, we'll never stop. There it was. He's not wrong, I said. I was mad at him, she admitted. For like a week, I'm sure. But he was right. Hearing that from her didn't feel like victory. I used to think love meant absorbing impact. If something went wrong, I stepped in. If money ran short, I wired it. If a gap opened, I filled it. I called it loyalty. I called it keeping a promise. What I didn't realize was that I was also removing the pressure that helps people grow. My sister didn't collapse when I said no. She adjusted. She sold what she couldn't afford. She refinanced. She budgeted. She figured it out. And in the process, something shifted between us. Not distance, not resentment, just balance. I didn't ruin her life. I didn't abandon family. I stopped financing a pattern that wasn't helping either of us. A lot of family revenge stories are loud. They end with someone exposed, humiliated, or cut off forever. This wasn't that. This was quieter. This was choosing a boundary instead of a blow-up. It was realizing that sometimes the strongest move in family drama isn't escalation. It's restraint. If you've ever felt like the responsible one, the dependable one, the one everyone calls when things fall apart, you know how hard it is to step back. Saying no doesn't mean you stop loving someone. It means you stop caring what isn't yours. That was my line. And once I drew it, everything became clearer. If stories about family revenge, family drama, and hard-earned boundaries resonate with you, make sure you subscribe. There's more real, honest storytelling here. No fantasy, no over-the-top drama, just the kind of decisions that change families for good.